growth therapy. Testing.
Oh God, that was horrible.
Yay. I don't know what that is. I was trying to do like people like anyways. This is my second Celsius.
the I don't know. We're sober, everyone.
I know.
It's 3
it's literally
p.m.
the middle of the day on a
It's
Wednesday.
Thursday.
It's Thursday?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's fucking Thursday.
Oh my God, the week's almost gone.
Fuck. Okay, anyways.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. It's me, Stephanie Megan, your host of Broco Therapy. And we got, not the Cami, but the Niki of Cami and Niki. Yay! For all the mouth breathers out there.
We were trying to make crowd cheering noises. Clearly didn't work.
It didn't work. However, so Cami recently was on the pod without you. Unplanned.
I was climbing that day, yeah.
What were you doing that day?
I was climbing, rock climbing.
We love that life.
Yeah.
I wish I could climb every day.
I don't climb every day.
I don't even climb, so I don't even know. If I wanted to, I'd go. So
this was outdoor climbing. Cami and I go to the gym, like the rock climbing gym, probably twice a week, but I like to go outdoor climbing because it's just a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And I went with this guy that like, he was at the first play party I ever went to, and it was his first play party too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's this like tall, he's Dutch and British, so like European accent, hot, great, phenomenal dick.
Very your type.
Washboard abs, like,
oh my God.
so hot. Anyways, but I met him at the first play party I ever went to, and it was his first play party too. And I just remember I was blowing him against the wall, and like someone had said something, and I like
full circle.
Yeah. I was like, I had like pulled him out of my mouth to like respond to what they were saying, and at the exact same moment, he like came all over my eye. It was so funny.
And now I go rock climbing together.
Yeah, now we go rock climbing. Yeah, actually, we're gonna go rock climbing again next week.
Do you guys still like hook up here and there? Like, did you give him a blowjob like on a mountain?
No, we didn't hook up last time we went rock climbing, even though like I get like very turned on in nature, so I was very down to fuck. However, we were both exhausted, like our forearms were like super pumped. We did some really hard routes. And then on top of that, we were all just like sweaty and gross, and we hadn't hooked up in like over a year. So he was like, why don't we table this and like hook up when we can like actually like get into it?
Aww.
Yeah. And so I think the desire is there. We just like haven't made it happen yet. And this week I'm on my period.
Oh my God.
Bless you.
You went rock climbing on your period?
No. This was.
Excuse me.
No. Last week I wasn't on it, but this week I am. Because we were vaguely making plans to hook up this week, but then I started my period, so I was like, it's cool.
This month period is like heavy.
Oh my God, mine too. And like I'm starving.
I'm hungry all the time.
Like I have usually I get a little bit more hungry during my luteal phase. I have been like a garbage disposal. Like I could eat anything. Dang. I've been making oatmeal. That's how like hungry I've been. I don't normally make oatmeal.
I only make oatmeal when I'm hungry.
Exactly.
And like when I'm like broke or whatever, or just like desperate.
Exactly.
I just want to eat something.
Exactly. So I've been having oatmeal. But anyways, so but yeah, I was climbing, and I know Cami came and recorded that episode with you, and I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm just happy that she had you to discuss it with, because I am fucking tired of the neighbor situation.
I was going to say, because people were like, someone commented on YouTube. I don't know if you saw.
What'd they say?
But they were like, thank you, Steph, for giving Cami this platform, because Niki does let her have it, or something along the lines of that. And I was like,
there's one bitch that always comments on your stuff that is just like out to get me. She does not like my commentary. And I just
she's always just like, I don't like the way Niki treats Cami. And I'm just like,
and I'm not everyone's cup of tea.
That's fine.
Nor do I want to be. Okay. I have a strong personality. Yeah. But I am actually thankful that you did have that episode one-on-one with Cami, because And like one thing I don't think people realize when you do have as close of a relationship with someone as like Cami and I do, sometimes it can be like really hard for us to support each other just because like we're twins, we're business partners, we live together, we have all the same friend group. Yeah, we're parents together to all of our pets. Like we always joke it's a sexless marriage. Like it really feels like it. But like, you know, when I have to see her go through this like on a daily basis, because you know, like when you have friends and they're going through shit, like you see it when you like hang out, maybe you text about it, but like you don't like live with it,
right?
You know, so they're like, oh, they're going through some shit, but like you don't live with it.
You have to live with it. That's why I'm like, you don't even need to listen to the episode because
exactly
it's probably just such a summary of what really happened, and you know everything that happened because you have to live with it, you have to see it, you have to deal with it. Yeah. So it's like, why even listen? Honestly.
No, exactly, and that's what I thought. And I know for myself, like if I listen to it, I'm just gonna get fucking frustrated, right? Because this whole time I was just frustrated with her, you know? And so it's like when you have to live with it, it's completely different. It literally felt like dealing with an addict is what it felt like.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so before we like continue this conversation, you guys, if you were just tuning in, you're probably like a little lost of what the fuck we're talking about.
Oh yeah, go back and
I would
listen.
say pause right now, pause this episode, bookmark it if you can, and go back to the episode I did a few episodes back with Cami where I called it That Dude Sucks because I couldn't figure out another title, but That Dude Sucks featuring Cami without Niki.
I love it. Yeah.
And then come back and listen to this episode.
Yeah. That way you get some context. And I know we've talked about it briefly like on another episode of yours, but and I know we've talked about it on our pod too. There's been a lot of conversations about it. I feel like
a lot of people know who, or I guess just an idea of who or what the neighbor situation is because it's toxic.
Yeah. And let me just say, guys, don't fuck your neighbors.
And I didn't know
it's not worth it. It's really not. It's
not. But the thing is, I remember you guys would always say like, oh, I see him bring a girl over, yada, yada. And I'm like, how do you, like, I know you guys are neighbors, but how do you actually see what they're doing? And y'all, I had to go like, because they were out of town this past weekend. I had to go and like change your cat's litter, check on the cats, like in the plants, make sure everything's okay. And when I walked into your living room, it's literally a beautiful apartment, of course. And it was like floor to like ceiling to floor, like loft windows, like the whole, like literally, you guys, it is like a fishbowl because you could see right into their fucking living room because they also have floor to ceiling loft windows.
Yeah.
So,
and they face each other.
Yeah. And of course she picks a neighbor where it's like you're literally facing each other's apartments and you see everything. So it's an unusual neighbor situation.
And everyone's like, get curtains. But I
literally get curtains. I'm like, that would solve so much.
I know, but I love those floor to ceiling windows. And I love the natural light that comes in. The cats all like lay in front of the window and bask in the sunlight.
You could do sheer curtains. You could do like a double rod where one is blackout and one is sheer.
Oh yeah, we could do that. Yeah, maybe we could do
there's
that.
No excuses because I feel like you obviously don't want to leave the apartment. So y'all have to come with the compromise. And you guys could come up with some very beautiful curtains, invest in some really nice curtains. Double rod, one is sheer, one is blackout. So when you don't, or when you're really not in the mood to see what's happening, and I know this is for Cami more so.
I was gonna say I don't give a shit.
You don't give a fuck, like you're like whatever. But for Cami, if you're listening, So if you feel like just tuning it out, easy fucking blackout curtains.
I know, and we should. I'll talk to her about it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like it's just really hard to be on the side of like. Obviously, like, it's not my relationship, like, and I have no business in it. But at the same time, like, you know, I can't tell you how many times I'd walk in to my apartment and there she is on the couch crying over some shit that he did. Aww. And so it's like, of course, like, I'm going to have feelings about it. And she's always like, you know, wondering, she's like, well, you need to just stay out of it. Like, I don't want your opinions because, like, you just are too hard on all the lovers that I have. And I'm like, okay, well, choose better lovers. and don't get me wrong, like I think outside of their relationship, like he's not a bad person, like he's not a bad guy. Obviously he did some toxic shit, you know, because like he's got some maturing to do emotionally, but like I don't think that he is like genuinely a bad human. I think he's just at this moment in his life not, you know, mature enough to handle something like this, and maybe has made some questionable decisions that hopefully he will grow from. But you know, other than that, like he's a fine person, you know. And so he's 24, like he's young, he's got growing to do, you know. Like I'm not going to sit here and excuse anything that he did, because like of course I'm pissed at the way that he handled something.
It just bothers me that you know, when Cami does something slightly hurtful or like, you know, whatever, it's like his go-to is like, well, I'm gonna bring a girl over because he knows that she's gonna see it all. Right. And I'm just like, the amount of retaliation that he has, like it seems like he has no remorse.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
It almost seems like, this is just me, I've never met this man, and this is just me just making judgment based off of what I know. But it almost seems like, is this like a weird kink for you, bro? Because it's like, you know, Cami does something to hurt you, and then you get some girl literally within an hour or like 5 minutes, and you like fuck her. And it's like, are you fucking her out of, like, you're fucking her out of spite? And does that spite turn you on so much? And that's why you keep doing it? I'm like, is this a kink?
Maybe. And I mean, honestly, like, is that a thing for dudes? Because like, I actually was recently in a situation where I was at a concert and I like ran into, I mean, like this guy that I used to date. We have our friend groups interlap. Is that a word? Interlace? What? I don't know.
Overlap. Interlap. Interlabia.
But anyway, so our friend groups overlap, and that's how we met, is that we have mutual friends anyway. So we're all at this concert, whatever. And I had actually like, you know, kind of hooked up with him not long before this concert.
With the neighbor?
No. This guy that this is one of my little situations. Anyways, and then at the concert, he was like all over this girl, like right next to me, like literally like making out with her all over her. Yeah. Like, right. Like I literally turned around and they were right behind me making out. And I was like, dude. And I just remember like when him and I were dating, there was one point where we were out once and like his ex was there and we were like 5 feet from her and he was like all over me. And so I don't know. Sometimes I wonder like if men feel like to get the upper hand after like, or when something's like after the end of a relationship or whatever, like if it, like that competitiveness that makes them want to like be like, hey, I won, I got someone else. Like I'm good. I don't need you. I've still got my options. Like, I think that's like, maybe it's just a man thing. I don't know.
I think women are capable of that too. Cause actually I will say that, I think I get a little bit like that. I've noticed, not in a sense of like, if they're 5 steps away, I'm going to be like all over this one guy. I'm a little bit more passive. Like for instance,
but see, that's what I'm saying.
If I break up with a dude, I don't like when he moves on first. It's almost like I have to find somebody first.
Okay.
To show that I moved on quicker than he did.
And see, for me, so like, I don't give a shit. Like if I, like if I break up with someone, if it takes me, you know, 6 months to get past it and like move on before I find someone else, like I don't care, you know. And if they're moved on before I do, then I'm just like, you probably bypassed your healing and go have fun with that. But like I guess I've just like never felt a need to like go and be like, oh, I need to show them that I moved on. And I think that like that was my experience recently, is I feel like this guy was just like trying to prove to me that like he's like over it and like on and like, whatever.
That you're nothing to him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that it didn't affect him, whatever. And I'm just like, okay.
Maybe it did. And that's why he like is trying so fucking hard.
I don't know. But see, like in both instances, like with the neighbor with Cami and then this guy with me, like I just wonder if like for men, if that's a thing that they feel after the end of a relationship, to have the upper hand, if they feel they have to prove that they've already moved on, they've got their options, they don't need you. Like maybe that's what it is. And if that's the case, like I think that's low key kind of sad.
It is.
Because I think like that's not how you're going to prove to someone that like you're in a, or like, that's not going to give you the upper hand. All that's really showing is that like, okay, you moved on. Like you can do that at any point.
Right.
Like,
but I think that it's an insecurity thing, right? Because I'm reflecting.
Oh, to move on and feel wanted.
Yeah. To feel like, oh, I'm still desired and you're not the only one who desires me. Because
Maybe.
Because I'm, now I'm kind of reminded of my younger self. I don't obviously do this now. There's no need for it. But when I was like younger and like didn't really know myself, I felt like I always needed to prove that I was desirable, that men desired me to show that, I don't need that person anymore, and that person isn't the only one to like me. Like other guys could like me too. And you know what I mean? And it's an insecurity thing. It's because the other person doesn't give a fuck. Like it's really just a projection of how I feel about myself. And it's because I don't feel desired by the person that I want to be desired by. So I have to fulfill that by being desired by other people to show that like, I don't need that. I don't need that person because I have other people who want me.
And maybe that's like what the difference is, I guess, is because in me, in my more like recent years, like I just haven't felt the need to like really prove to anyone that I am desirable at the end of a relationship because I'm just like, I know I am. It's just a matter of like I want to be desired by someone that I think is worthy of, me. Like,
right. Yeah.
And maybe that's like really like horrible to say, like, I don't know.
But also you're older now. I feel like you've always been though, like just from what I know about you, you've always just been very like confident in that. It doesn't really seem like, I'm sure you struggled with insecurities, but it doesn't seem like you struggled with insecurities like that. Like you always knew that you were a desirable woman and that you were a beautiful woman and that you knew your, like, for the most part, knew your worth. I know that we always struggled. That's nuanced and worth, but like, I feel like just based off of the stories you've told me, you've always known that. Is that true? I don't know.
I would say like, first of all, thank you. That's really sweet. I was like,
oh. I just know because you know what I mean? Because it's like, this. So it's like, you don't need to prove to anybody else,
I would definitely, like, I am someone that still struggles with insecurities. It's not like as if I don't have any. But I will say that like, for the most part, I would agree that I've never like, I've always believed I'm like worthy of like someone and worthy of like what I believe or like what I want essentially. And so like that is not something that I like have often struggled with. The only times I've ever really faced it have sometimes been maybe not even in career, because even in career I was like, no, of course I'm like fucking worthy of this.
Right.
But yeah, but I think
you always seem very confident to me.
Yeah. I mean, I would say for the most part, like I attribute this to my ex-husband, but like, yeah, I would say for like my 20s, I was a very confident person. Yes, there were times where I like kind of, there was an ebb and a flow to it. After my divorce, it took some time to get it back. And, there were a few other relationships where like, maybe it kind of took some dings here and there. But for the most part, like I have always like looked at myself and thought like, I'm a worthy human being. Yeah. I'm enough. Right. If anything, like the times where like, and maybe this is horrible to say, but like when I felt like someone didn't see my worth the way that I saw it, then I'm like, okay, well then that's on them. Like,
right.
Like that's not on me.
A you problem.
Yeah, that's not a me problem.
And that takes years of work for some people. Okay. Like that, I mean, that's still something I like even, like struggle with, but what do you get insecure about? What does Niki get insecure about?
Sometimes I have like insecurities about certain things on my body, which I think can be very normal. Like after I got off birth control, like my skin broke out and I used to be very insecure about my skin. I think I definitely, my skin is still not perfect. But it's not something that like necessarily bothers me a whole lot. I'm trying to think what else I get insecure about. I think there are times where I feel like I'm not at the level of success that I wish I was at. And that can like spur insecurities. But for the most part, like I'm a tough love bitch.
Yeah.
And I give that tough love to myself a lot. And this is where like Cami does not receive it well. But like that is how like I like love on myself. Yeah. And so like I am the kind of person that like anytime there's anything that like I have fears about, I have insecurities about, like any of that, I will literally sit there and like, talk to myself and be like, yo, this is not something like, yes, sure, your fears are valid, but like, this is something we're going to overcome. This is something that we're going to get past. Like, this is something we can do. This is something that, we can like handle. It's not like, I've always believed that everything is within my realm of capability.
Right.
Like, I can do anything. And again,
Yeah.
that came from my ex-husband. Like, I'm really thankful that he instilled that, like,
Oh, so you
in me.
give, so you say that comes from your ex-husband versus like your childhood?
I would say, yeah. I mean, like, my, I was always very independent, and my mom raised me to be very independent, but like, I never really had anyone like in my childhood that was like, oh, you can do anything. Like, my parents were always like, and I don't know if this is the same for you, but my parents were always like, follow like the path, like be realistic about
Right.
things.
They
like,
want you to just play it safe.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
And then when I met my ex-husband, I was 18. And then when we were like dating, he just, anything I wanted to do, he was always like, you can do it. You got it. You're going to excel
Yeah.
at it. And
And
like,
18 is a young age, so I feel like having that be instilled in you at that age is still like,
yeah,
it's very much effective.
yeah, I would agree. And I think that's like one of the big reasons why Camille and I are very different in the way that we handle things, like even now, is because like when we were 18, she was in college, depressed. She didn't have like a Nate.
Yeah.
Nate is my ex-husband's name. She
That's
didn't
so funny,
have
it's
a
my
Nate.
brother's name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, how funny. Great
Yeah.
name. But she didn't have a Nate in her life. And whereas I did, and he always like just made me feel invincible, like I could do anything. And so I think that like really, kind of, I think the avoidant on my side and anxious on her side, that's always been since we were children. But I think the like level of confidence now, like the differences there definitely stem from that.
From
Yeah.
Nate.
Yeah. What I got from my marriage, she never really quite got from anyone. So I know.
How was your guys' like relationship with your parents?
I mean, our biological father was like a sperm donor, and
Oh, really?
yeah. And then, but our stepdad was great.
Okay.
And then our mother was, just very critical, but a great mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would say, I mean, just because, I get this too sometimes in the comments, they're like, they run to daddy issues.
Oh,
Y'all
yeah.
have daddy issues. Just
I mean,
because,
we do, but
yeah. I think a lot of us do. And
Yeah.
that's not something to like, we could laugh about whatever joke, but it's also okay. And like, why is that a problem? Whatever. I mean,
was your mom kind of critical with you?
oh, yeah.
I was going to say, I remember you mentioned that.
I
yeah.
would say that like you and Cami's relationship with each other kind of is like a sister version relationship of me and my mom.
Really?
Yeah, because my
Interesting.
mom, I would say I'm more like Cami.
Okay.
And my mom, you remind me a lot of my mother.
Oh.
In the best way possible. But I mean, it took me a really long time to get to this point where like now I kind of admire my mother in different
Yeah.
ways. I mean, she's not fucking perfect. Don't get me wrong. I could point out all the fucking flaws.
Yeah.
However, like she is a tough fucking bitch.
Yeah.
And she's like, the epitome of tough love.
Yeah.
And I think, and my dad, I mean, my dad, like my dad is like sweet. He's
Yeah.
very like, he's a lot like, like I feel like I'm a kind of a balance of both. My dad is very much like a pushover and very sweet and very
Yeah.
nurturing. And my mom is just like, get your ass up and
Yeah.
fucking fix those fucking pillows. Like
Yeah.
she's just a hard ass. So like looking at your guys' dynamic, I'm like, actually that's like very similar. It's like a sister version of like me and my mom.
I mean, so our mom is pretty like blunt and, kind of a tough bitch too. But I would definitely say she has a bit of a balance to her, like where she has, I should say this. I think she's grown more into a nurturing side, whereas before over the, like, years ago, she was a lot tougher on us, but now I think she's a lot more nurturing.
My mom too.
Yeah, she's kind of grown
I think
into
it's
that.
like empty nest, less like stress. They just kind of like,
yeah, you don't live with each other.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like living with family can really like change the dynamic. I was telling Cami, I was like, I think we should be enjoying our time together because I don't think we're going to be living together much longer. Like I think, in the next year or two, we'll probably definitely move apart, which it will be good for us. But yeah, Cami is definitely very like, nurturing, like kind of the softer one of the two of us. And then I'm kind of the tough one. And, like, in the situation with the neighbor, for example, like for example, those times when I like come home and there she is crying about something that he did, and like it's the eighth chance she's given him or whatever, and I'm frustrated, and like I can't even in those situations offer her support because like I'm like, I'm pissed at you for putting yourself through this again. B, I don't know how to support you in something that I don't support at all.
Right.
And C, like, you don't respond well to my tough love. I know that. So if I start talking right now, I just know you're not going to respond well to it. And like, and that itself takes a lot of awareness. Like, I stop myself more often than not now because I know like she just does not respond. And I tell her too, I'm like, look, the tough love I give you is the same tough love I give to myself because that's what I know and that's what I respond to.
Yeah.
But that is not what she responds to at all. She needs a little bit more. She hates it when I say coddling, but but she needs someone that's a little bit more like nurturing and soft with her. So like when we have friends that can do that for her, I am thankful for that because then it relieves it from my plate because I just cannot.
Yeah.
I cannot be that to her, and I recognize that. And it's taken us, 2 years of living together, 2 years of therapy to realize that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because even just when I was talking to her, because even just like looking back at, other episodes where she is trying to be vulnerable, it's like what you're saying is so right and so valid. Like we need that tough love, but there's like a time and place for it.
Yeah.
And she definitely is one of those that, needs that. Oh my God, my ex just texted me. Oh my God. Let's see.
Oh, hey.
Because I like told him because I did that bonus episode and I was like, oh wait, I'm like promoting this photo of you know what I mean? Then I'm like, let me just tell him because also his brother followed me and liked the photo. So I was like, I should probably tell him before his brother gets to him.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah. So I was like, I just like said, hi, it's been 4 years. Laughing my ass off. It's Steph. If somehow you lost my number, just a heads up. I've been doing throwbacks on the podcast and this week is yours. I figure I should tell you because I posted a photo of us and everything. But that episode helped me a lot on my journey, so I wanted to highlight that. I didn't tag you, of course, just to keep your privacy. But if you want, I could tag you. Just let me know. But I hope all is well with you and you're living your best life.
How cute. And what do you say?
Of course he doesn't remember me. He's like, is this Steph? The Steph? The one who got rich and famous and left everyone behind?
Oh, God. LOL.
I wouldn't say rich and famous. I left everyone behind. LOL, I'm glad your podcast and show is doing well. Happy I can provide you closure from your Tinder escapades. It's fine to tag me. Life is good. Also, since when did we take a photo together? I don't remember because he doesn't remember shit.
No, men don't remember
like, we have a fucking photo together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the only photo we have together because we were so like just friends with benefits that, you don't want to like. So.
No, yeah, I know. Yeah.
You're like the only photo that we have. But anyways, so yeah.
Where were we?
Where were we? The tough love with Cami and just needing to give her that.
I mean, I think like it's, important in any dynamic, platonic, romantic, whatever, to like establish like and really get to understand like how you both like are in conflict resolution. Like, for example, where I need tough love and she needs maybe, kind of a softer approach, like those things, like, and to understand it about yourself so you can, tell that to someone. So then you can realize, okay, like, now, like when it comes to approaching support for each other, like you got to kind of work through those initial steps of like, okay, we don't support each other in the way that we need. So it's like, how are we going to approach it, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of exhausting, but it is a good place to be at to where you have like awareness around it.
It's also good to show that, hey, this is affecting me too.
Yeah.
And to show that like you're kind of sort of involved without really being directly involved because you live there.
Yeah.
And so she comes home, like her emotions affect you. You're her sister. Like essentially like you're kind of in this relationship indirectly. Yeah. And so when you see someone go through something so toxic, like it affects the people around you.
Yeah, it does. 100%.
And so I think it's good that at least that shows because that can help her realize like, oh wait, like this is getting really messy.
Yeah.
As painful as it is to see, but I think it's like a stepping stone to show that like we need to move on.
Yeah. And I would like call her out on it too. And like, and she hates
You definitely
it.
call her out. Yeah.
No, but like, I mean, there would be like, I remember, for the 10th time when she'd be like, no, it's not going to be the same this time. We're just going to hang out as friends and it's not going to be the same. And I'm like, no, I know exactly what's going to happen. You're going to hang out as friends again.
Has
You're
she
going to
hung
sleep
out with
together.
him?
No, she hasn't yet.
Okay, good.
This was like in the
Yet?
past.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She hasn't.
No, she
Period.
hasn't. Yeah. Anyways, but like in the past, you know, she'd like, they'd break up and then, you know, things would be a little bit rocky. She'd probably try to go away somewhere and then she'd come back home and then he would come back home from wherever he was. And then they would like, you know, kind of like just try to be friends again. And then, you know, so they'd be friends and then, you know, they'd sleep together or do something that was like romantic again and kind of start that again. And then one of them would do something to piss off each other and then they'd fight again. And it was like this just vicious cycle that literally happened probably over 12 times. And so then every single time that she'd be like, no, it's going to be different this time. We're just going to be friends. I'm like, I'd literally call her out on it. I'd be like, you're going to sleep together tomorrow. And then you're going to, you know, a few days. And then it would literally happen. And she would hate it. But I'm like, you're lying to me because you're telling me it's going to be different. It's not. And I would tell her point blank, I'm like, until I see you actually make a change and something actually look different, I'm just going to expect that same cycle because that's what I keep seeing. So everything coming out of your mouth right now, I don't believe. And so that was like...
I'm sure that was painful to hear.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was, but like I wasn't afraid to tell that to her because she needed to, like,
Yeah. So what do you do for your mental health when you're seeing all of that? Because I know that affects you.
It did.
How do you like keep your distance but try to be there?
And that's what I'm saying. I couldn't be there. I would just straight up not. Anytime she was crying, I would literally, and she would like try to come to me for like a hug. And this sounds really fucking bad, but I would literally be like, I'm sorry, I cannot. And just like lay my boundary there because like it is really hard to try and be there for someone that you just see them like hurting themselves.
Yeah. But that's
it's like, you know, think about like someone that's an alcoholic, you know, and then it's like the 8th time they've relapsed and they're trying to come to you for support and you're just like, dude, you know? And so that's why I'm saying I think it's great when we have like, you know, when her and I have other friends that we can rely on for support because, you know, like for example, I have a friend, a really good friend, and she's like me, very tough love. She'll call me out on my shit. And like, I go to her for support because like, I know she's going to, you know, give me what I need. And I think Cami has those friends too. And so like, sometimes we definitely realize we need those third parties.
For sure. That's good though.
Yeah, it is.
Have you ever been in the same kind of routine cycle with a guy before? Just like you see with Cami and the neighbor? Have you had similar like relationships like that?
I wouldn't say that extreme. No, I am someone that like, I will give, you know, a try or two or a shot or two. But then I will walk away because, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. You know, if I think about Calvin, for example.
I'm going to say Calvin because I know that's the one that I feel like is kind of a similar equivalent, maybe not as extreme.
It's definitely not as extreme, definitely not as toxic.
But it's similar equivalent to as far as how you feel about that person, you know?
I would agree. I mean, but the thing, you know, Calvin and I, that spanned for like 2 years. And, you know, the first year I was in like complete denial about my feelings for him. But I agreed that I would give it multiple chances. But then I did walk away. And then, you know, we like barely talked for, you know, I mean, very on and off for like, we would talk like every few months, you know, maybe 3 months, something like that. Just like a quick catch up here and there, whatever. But like, I never went into each time like with like the expectation of like, oh, something will happen. Sure, I was open to seeing if anything would, but like, yeah, I don't think I've been.
You knew when to walk away.
Yeah,
like you would try, you wouldn't give up, but you would just, you know, if it.
I'd like to think I'm someone that will leave the door open, but I won't hold it there.
Yeah,
and I think, you know, whereas like Cami was like trying to like really
shove them through the door.
Yeah, shove them through the door. Exactly.
Why do you think, you know, because you are her sister, you've been there since literally the womb, like you were one cell broken into two.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think that she has these anxious attachment styles? Not to just like therapize Cami, which is on here, but just like as a viewpoint of like her sister and, you know.
You know, it's funny because like I try to think about this, and first of all, I just want a quick side note. You're great with questions. Like you're a great interviewer.
I want to know. Like I'm
I know,
genuinely very curious.
But I also love your questions because this is completely off cuff, and I think you ask phenomenal questions.
Thanks.
So, and it shows that you've been doing this for however long you've been doing, years.
Thank you.
And you're good at what you do. So just giving you recognition where it's deserved.
Okay. Back to you, Cami.
I mean, I remember I was telling you this the other day, and I was telling Cami this too. When we were babies, and so as for anyone listening, they say, or at least what I've read, is that like basically a lot of like your habits, your mannerisms, your like the way you are as a person, a lot of that develops within like 2 to 7 years old. A lot of your traumas too. So like, you know, any needs that aren't being met in that time frame will kind of like set the tone for like who, like the way that you go about getting your needs or whatever for the rest of your life, etc. So that happens from 2 to 7 years old. And I remember my mom was telling us that whenever we were babies, we had a stroller. Is it tandem when it's front and back like that? I can't remember the word. But anyways, she would tell me that like I was always on the front and then Cami was in the back. So like she was always saying, she was like, oh, you always got all the attention. And like, you know, everyone was like, you know,
going to you first.
Yeah, going to me first.
Cami,
yeah. And then Cami was always in the back and my mom would always kind of like give her more attention because of that. And it wasn't until recently that I was like thinking about that. And then I realized that like that little thing, I think, and maybe this sounds really weird to say or like stupid to say, but I think it could be a big contributing factor to like the way that we are today. You know, when it comes to anything that Cami and I do, I'm always the first one giving it a try. I'm always, you know, the one that's like the front runner. Cami will wait and see how it goes for me before she tries it first.
Yeah.
Like, you know, any hike that we're on, like anything that like hobby, whatever, like a lot of times like it's me leading and then she'll go
follow behind.
Yeah. And so, and then I think about it and it's like, that's what she watched me do like our entire babyhood. I don't know.
Right. Babyhood. Yeah.
You know, she always saw me at the front and then she was just kind of observing in the back and then like, you know, she'd see. And so I was always kind of like the front runner and then she was behind, which is funny because like, you know, she was born first.
Yeah.
And I was second, but a lot of times they say that it's like you know, even though the firstborn is the firstborn, the second one is the one kicking them out.
Oh my God.
You know,
that's
like
funny. Yeah. Like getting, yeah.
And so maybe that's the case.
I could see that.
Yeah.
What happened.
And
that was true.
But then like I also think about like our childhood and like, for example, you know, when our father, you know, kind of gave up on us. I don't know how to say it. Anyways, she was always the one that would give him a million chances. I would not.
So, because just to back up for context, I remember you told me that your parents had you guys really young, like 18 years old.
My mom was like 19 when we were born.
And your dad was?
Like 24.
Okay.
So yeah, he was really a little older.
Yeah.
But they were young. And then and then they divorced like 2 years later.
Okay, so they were married.
Divorced. And then whenever we were 8, we left Argentina to come here.
Yeah.
And so, and when we came here, she basically told him like, hey, you don't have to, like, let me take them to the US and you don't have to pay child support. And he was like, sure. And he didn't. And so.
And he never really like, how was his personality and behaviors like?
He was, you know, a fuckboy through and through.
Oh, really?
Oh, 100%. Okay. He was always partying and, you know, like he prioritized like his like, you know, going out life and like all the women over like us, you know. And so like we saw him as kids, but not a whole lot. And so, but yeah, that's what I was like thinking about is like when we moved here, like Cami was the one that tried to keep a relationship with him. She would give him a million chances. I was like, no, I avoided him. And if you think about that, like, what do we do now? Like that was already her anxious attachment showing up and trying to make it work with him. And me, oh, wow, maybe this is where it all stemmed from. Me, I was like immediately like, no, I'm good. You left. That's your decision. Bye.
Yeah.
Like
that was your coping mechanism. Because they both stem from anxiety
Yeah,
and
they do.
abandonment. But
Exactly.
it's like you guys just had different reactions.
Yeah. So whereas she actually tried to make it work with him, I did not. And then, for example, when our stepfather came around, she was like immediately trying to make a relationship with him, which was, totally fine.
Yeah.
And like very much like attached to him, where I was like, I did not talk to him, my stepdad, for like months until I realized, okay, he's going to stick around. Now I'll give him a chance.
Whoa.
And so like
And how old were you guys?
10.
Okay. And how old were you guys when you left Argentina?
8.
8. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is
And
like,
so how old were you guys when your parents divorced, like your biological dad divorced?
we're 2. I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. 2
Okay.
years old. So see, that's what I'm saying. I think like our father, abandoning us in a way, he didn't really, yeah. I mean, I know my mom brought us here, but at the same time, it never really felt like, well, the problem would be is that like, if, he just kind of like, sure, go ahead. I don't have to be child support. And then B, every single time he'd call, it would literally be like, why aren't you calling more? Why aren't you, like putting the responsibility on us to like keep the relationship going?
That's annoying.
Yeah. When like we were 10 years old and he was like 30,
Right.
So he always like put it on us, and that drove me nuts as a child. But yeah, now that I think about it, that's exactly where it all stemmed from. That relationship is where Cami's anxious attachment avoided and where my avoided.
And that's like her reaction. That's what's just carried on.
Yeah.
Wow.
And even now, like, or in the more recent years, she's finally kind of given up on him. But even in the more recent years, like she would try more. Like she would actually pick up his calls and like respond to his texts, where I would literally ignore them and not respond. So yeah, just 2 very different ways of handling that situation. But I see it now.
Yeah. But you were like, how did you guys cope with each other through that? How did you guys lean on each other?
I mean, I think we both had like the frustration that like he didn't show up, obviously. But then I don't know. I don't think that we ever actually, I mean, like we supported each other through it. I think sometimes I was frustrated, or like, whenever he would call and she would pick up, like I would just kind of like immediately like wonder like why bother, but she would still try.
I just want to hug little Cami.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think our inner children are very different.
Yeah.
And she is a lot softer than I am. And don't get me wrong, like, like if you ask a lot of like our close friends, like I remember one time one of our friends, someone was like asking them, they were like, well, how would you describe the difference between the twins? And he was like, Cami is like soft and nurturing, and Niki is like, what did he say? Like spiky and like cold or something. I can't remember. And yeah, I mean, she's just she wants to love really hard. And even though I do too, I have like a fortress that you got to get through before you see any of that.
For sure.
And so so very different ways of handling things.
That's like, I love that. I feel like we never really get to see that side of you guys. Like, I think that we're so used to like the women that you are today, talking about sex, being so open and stuff. So it's like kind of nice to like know about your childhood self.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to like the immigration thing.
Yeah.
So why did your mom decide to move to the States?
My grandfather lived here.
Okay.
And she just thought there was a better life for us here in the US. She was going through some shit in Argentina. The economy's not great.
Yeah.
And so she was just like, I want to move and like kind of, start over. And I'm always like, when I think about it, like, she did a very scary thing, picked up her whole life
for sure, with
20 years old with twin baby girls, and, moved to a country where she didn't know the language. She only knew her, father that lived here, like, and I think about like the apartment that we lived in when we moved here and all of that. And then I see her now and she's got like a nice car and a nice house and, her family, like she really, built herself. And like, I always like admire her for that, because like she started from nothing.
Yeah.
And, where she is now, like I'm proud of her.
Yeah. I think about my parents too, because they're immigrants, and just thinking like, and even just from when we were younger kids to like getting older, from like living in an apartment together, like me and like my 2 brothers, like sharing a room, to eventually having our own room and like living in like the suburbs, and just kind of like seeing that growth, and then now seeing my parents be obviously a better place than they were
Yeah.
when they first got here. But it is like really like inspiring to see.
And I don't know about you, but like, I don't know. Did your parents have you young? Or how old were they when they had
They
you?
were, I think, my mom was probably like 30 years old. So it's not like
Not too
young,
young.
but not
Okay.
too young. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, because like, I don't know about you, but for me, watching my mom go through all the struggles that she did when she was younger and like had us, like that was a big reason why I didn't never really like wanted children until, or like in my like 20s, because I was like, I really want to establish myself if I ever decide to have a family. Like I want to give like my children a comfortable life,
Right.
because like I remember the struggles that we faced, and like while, but we like overcame them obviously, and like,
Yeah.
we made it work. And I think it gave us the work ethic that it did, but like that was, for me, seeing all of that made me like in my 20s want to like really just like focus on my success.
Right.
Yeah.
And what were like some of those struggles that you guys faced?
I mean, definitely financial ones. Like my
Yeah.
mom, she would work long, long hours. I remember once she had like 2 or 3 jobs, and so like my grandfather would like babysit us while she worked,
Yeah.
endless
Aw.
hours. And like, yeah, she was just kind of a workhorse. Like when Cami and I we had jobs starting at like 12 years old.
Really?
Yeah, we
Child labor.
yeah, child labor. Well, we worked in the summers at this like what do you call it? It was like this amusement park. And we
Aw.
worked in like the catering side of things. And
Oh my
like,
God, cute.
yeah, and then we used to referee soccer on the weekends.
Stop. That's actually so cute.
Yeah, but we did that because when we wanted to do cheerleading in middle school, it was like $1,000 to do cheerleading, because like you had to like pay for the uniforms and like all the entrance fees for the competitions, because we did competitive cheer
Right.
and all this stuff. And so it was like $1,000 for each of us, so it's like 2,000. And so my mom was like, okay, if you want to do it, you make the money, because I don't have it. And
Yeah.
so we would go work jobs and then make, yeah.
Gosh.
So we've had jobs since we were 12. And then, but like I said, that made us workhorses too,
Right.
and like very like independent. And then even when we were like 16, when I was 16 and I started driving, like my mom gave me the first car that she had when she moved to the States. It was like a 2000 Kia
Aw.
Sportage.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she gave me that car, which she kept. Which I now thinking, like, what did she do with that car for, like, that was a solid 6 years. I don't know where that car was, but anyways,
Yeah.
she gave me that car, and then she was like, all right, if you want to pay the insurance and the gas and everything to drive it, like, that's all on you.
And did you guys have to share a car?
Yeah. Well, Cami didn't get her license until 18. I got mine at 16. So for 2 years,
Why did she wait?
I drove us around.
Oh, okay, because she
Yeah.
had you.
Yeah,
to do
exactly.
it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. See what I mean?
Because you were
like,
the first one to
in
do
everything.
it.
I was the first one to have sex. I was the first one to drive. Like, I was the first one like to do everything. And Cami
First one to get married.
First one to get married.
First one to get divorced.
First one.
You've done it all.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But and so yeah, at 16 I was working at Famous Footwear, and then Cami got a job at Chili's, and Cami made bank at Chili's.
I was gonna say, I fucking love Chili's. Chili's is one of my favorite restaurants.
Those
I don't
egg rolls, the Southwest egg rolls.
Yes,
Oh.
or the fucking chicken crispers, bitch.
Yeah, or the what was it? The queso.
The queso
Fucking
was
delicious.
so good. And just like the 2 for $20 deal back in the day.
Oh my God, so
Like,
cheap. Yeah.
So cheap. And you got the appetizer,
Yeah.
a fucking entree. Oh my God. I used to like, me and my friends be like 2 for $20 Chili's and just like spend $10 each. So good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Now you can barely get a drink for $20.
Literally. But I still love Chili's. I am a Chili's stan. Please sponsor me.
We worked at Chili's. Cami worked there for like 7 years. I worked there for like 4 years.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a long time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we've been working since we were 12 years old. And refereeing soccer, when I think back to those days, it cracks me up.
Did you guys play soccer?
No, we didn't. We just refed it. But obviously, like, we're big soccer fans. Like, we watched the World
that's
Cup.
true.
Argentina
Okay.
is big on soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
No, because
funny.
we did cheer, so we never played soccer. But yeah.
Oh, that's
But honestly,
cute.
yeah, I really didn't think about like the ways until I was talking about it here that like how early our like different attachment styles showed up and like how different they were,
Yeah.
and like we definitely still carry that with us. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder for like how do you heal that? It's like you don't want to change because people. I mean, where I feel like it's so ingrained in us, but like, how do you manage like an anxious attachment style? Like, how do you, I don't know.
I don't know. 'Cause, I mean,
It's obviously, I guess, just a lot of self work, whatever.
there
that
are
looks
times
like.
where I've experienced like anxious attachment. And that's the thing about like attachment styles. I do think to some extent, and something that people don't realize often is that like, even though you have one that's kind of like your go-to, like you can also experience the others with other people depending on like their attachment style.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
like, I've been all of them. I've
Yeah.
been very secure. I've been very like dismissive, avoidant, and I've also been very anxious. Like,
Yeah.
every person brings out a different side.
Exactly. Like I said,
Yeah.
I think everyone has a go-to, but for the most part, you will probably experience all forms that, throughout your life,
For sure.
especially if you've been in a lot of relationships. But in terms of healing it, I mean, like I lean towards avoidant. And
Do you think that that's like healthy? Do you feel like it actually serves you more versus it hurts you more?
No, I mean, I don't think it's like I don't think avoidant is like any better than anxious. Like maybe it's like cooler in the sense that like you don't have as big of a fucking reaction, but at the same time, no, it still fucking hurts you. Like, because then all you really do is just avoid the problem. And,
But do you feel like you're actually avoiding the problem or you're handling the problem and just creating boundaries? Because I think sometimes creating boundaries maybe might look like you're being avoidant.
I think it can I think that's a good point there that it can blur the lines, but
because I feel like with Cami, for instance, this whole thing, I feel like in like come to really like think of it as we're talking about it, I don't really feel like you're avoiding it. I feel like you're more so had told her what it is, how you felt, and
in that situation,
created boundaries.
Yeah, in that situation, that wasn't my avoidant. I would say that's that's definitely boundaries. But like, for example, in like a relationship, like for example with my father, where it's like I would just avoid him outright rather than like face the issues.
That's
like
true.
that was avoidant rather than like, hey, like let's talk, let's work through this. I'm like, I'm just not even gonna try. It's not worth my time. And and then
have you ever
Mm.
told your dad about how you felt about him? Okay.
Yeah, to some regard, I have.
How did that look like?
I have very little respect for the man. If I'm being honest, no, I don't, and I think he means well. I don't think he's like necessarily a bad person. He's just very selfish, and I think he just is also avoidant. Like
you're probably a lot like him versus Cammy's a lot like your mom.
Yeah,
do you think?
I would agree.
So do you think maybe it's like also a genetic thing?
I don't know if it's genetic,
or
but,
just obviously.
But I mean, we learn from our parents,
you
so
learn.
like we follow the patterns of our parents, and so yeah, sometimes you're gonna follow, one parent more than the other. So yeah, and I mean, in terms of like what the times that I've like brought it up to him, I think I've just told him that like it just doesn't feel worth my time when like he's never really like tried to get to know me or like be in my life in a way that like resonates with me. Like it's always like anytime he's tried to be in my life, it's been about like him in a way, like what I do to make him proud or like what I or like what he gets out of it, basically, if that makes sense. Like I think he he looks at my success and will be like, that's validation that like he's a good parent, and I'm like, no, it's not. You didn't contribute a damn thing.
Right.
If anything, like you made me the fortress that I am, like in a negative way maybe there, but like yeah, so that conversation. But even then,
how does he take it? Like, does he ever get like emotional or does he ever get
yeah,
regretful
he
of how he handled things when he was younger with you guys?
No, he would just get defensive, like, and then that's where he's not willing to take accountability for what he did wrong, and that's what I can't stand is like the lack of accountability.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. So how about your mom though?
See, my mom, like in more recent years, like our relationship has grown like tenfold because like she started going to therapy, and I was the one that convinced her to go to therapy. I literally helped her find her therapist.
Yeah.
And
how did she because I know you said that she was tough, but how did she go about like what was like her parenting style with you guys?
She was very critical, like expected perfection out of us. Always
like which one of you guys got along with her better, or was that pretty equal as far as like the relationship? Like, did she treat Cami a different way than she treated you?
I don't think she treated us differently, but like I think she always favored Camilla more in the sense that like I think she knew Cami was just a little bit easier to like
Be around
what's the word I'm looking for? Like
to please
open up to,
open up
or
to.
like
Okay.
or Cami would be more receptive to her efforts.
Okay.
Where I was always the one that like needed a little convincing before I was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, Cami was definitely more receptive. I do think she like favored Cami more in general. But like she always like would tell me like, you know, that I was so independent. She just always felt like she had nothing to offer me.
Damn.
And I'm like, what? Excuse me?
You're like, I need a mother.
I need a mother. I need like,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. That's where that like that wall that I
Yeah.
built, you know, she just wouldn't sometimes even try because she's like, you know, you're just gonna do it on your own. Like I was
Yeah.
very self-reliant.
Okay.
And
Do you think
so-
you were like more, I don't know, like, do you think that you've gotten softer throughout time, or do you think you were softer, like, or was it like the opposite? Do you think
I
you
would
got
like to
even
think
tough?
I've gotten a little softer
Okay.
over the years. I'd like to think that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like, you know, like you said that like I'm a very confident person. And yes, some of it is confidence, but a lot of it is just a lot of fucking self-reliance that has just like made me like so independent and so like autonomous that like there's not really, you know, anyone that like I necessarily like need anything from maybe.
Right.
But even then like when I say that I realize like yeah, I have my moments where I'm like I wish I, you know, could get a hug from my mom right now, or like I wish,
Yeah.
you know, that like I had someone to just like tell me it's going to be okay. And I've learned how to ask for that.
Okay.
And I think that's where I've softened and where I've like opened up more because like for example, last time my mom was here, like, you know, I went up to her and I'm like I need a hug. And she just like let
Aw.
me, you know, and I like crawled on her lap and just like
Yeah.
koala bear hugged her. And, you know, the woman weighs less than I do. She's, you know, she's a stick, you know,
Yeah.
and here I am just like on her. And so like, I think that's where like it has gotten better, our relationship, because like, you know, when she started doing therapy, like I really saw her finally start to realize like where she needed to like make changes. And then I started seeing like where I needed to like open up and be willing to go to her. Therapy helped me with that too. Like my
Yeah.
therapist would be like, yeah, you know, you can go ask her for those things. And so like that's when like our relationship got better, is when I could like we could both communicate to each other and I could go to her and be like, I need a hug. And she could go to me and be like, you know, like, let's open up about this. And I would be
Yeah.
willing to do that. And so, yeah,
I love that.
yeah, it
Oh,
helps.
shout out to therapy.
Shout out to therapy.
It is pretty expensive, but it's worth it.
Yes. It always
New
cracks me-
tagline.
It is though. It is. And honestly, like I haven't actually been in therapy for like a year now, and I've just recently started to think, like maybe I need to get back into it. I kind of want to find a different therapist. I went for a therapist, and I loved my therapist. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I went for a therapist that was kind of like the opposite of my mother, in the sense that like she was very nurturing, very like validating, very
Yeah.
all those things. Like not the tough love that I needed. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to try this because I want to see how like I respond to it. And at that time, I needed it and it was good. And I think like I said, she definitely served her purpose. But now, like once I kind of got all of that out of the way, now I'm like, okay, I need to go back to someone that's going to like really challenge me
Yeah.
and really like
I-
push me.
I'm glad you said that, because I felt like I'm kind of feeling that way with my therapist too. Like I feel like I've kind of feel like I've hit a ceiling with her.
Have you outgrown her maybe?
Like I feel like
Yeah.
I've outgrown her, and I think that she was great. If anything, I think she was more nurturing,
Yeah.
and she was great. I mean, I think she helped me a lot, but now I feel like sometimes I go to therapy and I'm like, I know I'm not perfect, but I still have like I don't know what to tell her anymore, or if I do talk about it with her, I'm like, I feel like you're my best friend.
Yeah.
So it's like I already know what you're gonna say or do. Like I think I need somebody. I like that you said somebody that's kind of the opposite,
Yeah.
who is that tough love,
Yeah.
because I need someone to call me out more.
Yeah. And that's why
And I want someone to
stopped
call
seeing
me
my
out more.
therapist. Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you thought about a male therapist?
maybe actually, maybe I think
Because
I'm ready for that.
one of my friends, she's a therapist and she has her own therapist. And she said that she basically like switches therapists every few years. I know people that have had the same therapist for like decades.
Yeah,
And I commend that. And I think that's great, especially when you build like a really close bond. But I also think like sometimes like we are, evolving humans. And like I said, my therapist served her purpose. And now I'm feeling that like I need a new energy. And so like if you feel maybe, your therapist has like kind of served her purpose, maybe find someone else. But yeah, my friend that's a therapist, she said she went from a female to a male. And she was like, that was a very big change for me and really pushed me because it was a lot more inner child work. She also had daddy issues.
Yeah.
And so she was like, it really helped me work through some of that. So maybe something like that could help you.
Yeah. Because, yeah, we should change our therapist sometimes. I think it is okay to like say, hey, they helped and served a purpose, but now I feel like I need something else. Because when I go to her, I'm kind of like, I couldn't figure that out by myself. Like I couldn't figure that out. But I'm like, but she's helped me before. But now I feel like, I don't know if it's continuing. So it feels a little dry.
Yeah.
I mean, spice it up.
If I were you, I would just go to her and be like, hey, I really appreciate the work that we've done together. I think I'm going to go try a different therapist for a while just to see if I, can find maybe new perspective or new ways to handle things. And then just let her know, like, you could return to her at a later time. It doesn't have to be a goodbye, like a breakup.
It doesn't need to be a breakup. I don't probably have to say anything. It's just like, be like, I'll schedule when I schedule.
Yeah, and then go try something else. And then if you want to come back later, you can.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I pee real quick?
Yeah. Let's just close out.
Oh, you want
We're
to?
done. Yeah, it's ready.
This has been like a great episode.
Oh, I know. I really loved it because I feel like that's why I'm so happy we're doing individual because, I mean, obviously we love the three of us, but it's nice to like give you each a spotlight. And especially for this one, I felt like I learned so much about you and your guys' childhood. And I feel like that's really how we understand people's through all of that, so.
And I mean, like I said, I am thankful that like Cami got to like have that conversation with you. And like I said, I'm always grateful for like when she has someone that can give her the support that she needs and the support that she responds to, because like I said, I've come to learn that like, we don't always mesh in that way. And don't get me wrong, like, of course I'm going to hug her when she wants like a hug. And of course I'm going to, like do everything I can to support her. But like, there are times where we reach our limits with each other. And so that's when it helps to have like other people. But like, I mean, the thing about Cami is that like, like she's my world. She's my everything. I want the best for her. Like if a man is going to, be in her life and be her partner, her teammate, her provider, like I need to know and have like complete confidence that they will like be the man that I know that she like deserves.
For sure.
And I think sometimes like I have a much higher standard, or not standard, but like I have a much like higher
wall.
Yeah, than she does sometimes. And so it's like, she asks me all the time, she's like, is anyone ever gonna meet, your criteria for me, like what I deserve? Yeah. And I'm like, 100% someone will someday.
You just have to be open, like allow those people in. And also last thing before, because I need to go pee. When we were at your apartment, taking care of the animals and stuff, Brian came with me, and across the way, of course, we could see the neighbors. We saw one of them. I don't know if it was homeboy, but remember I like FaceTime you. I was like, these the neighbors, because he was out there smoking with like two girls.
Yeah.
And Brian, was like assuming maybe that was the neighbor that she, was going crazy over. Not crazy, just, lustful over. And he was like, what the fuck? He's like, Cammy's so beautiful, so kind, so smart. Like, why is she tripping over this, like, this motherfucker, like she did, like he was even like, she deserves better. Like we all know that she deserves better. You just need her.
And I think that's what drives me nuts is I'm like,
to see,
I'm like, you deserve like, the cream of the crop, the like literally, top tier. Yeah. And
top tier.
So when I see her go for these dudes that I'm just like, really,
right.
And don't get me wrong, he's great, but they're just at two very different points in their lives too. She deserves someone that's like at a much maturer place, someone that's a lot more
who's not going to
in their skin, who's not going to treat her that way, who's not going to retaliate that way, who's going to act maturely,
who's not going to use her triggers against her. Because that's what it is. He
knew. He's like, if I go,
I see her vulnerability and I'm going to use it against her.
Exactly.
Like she needs someone that like sees that and nurtures that and doesn't let that.
And respects
it. Yeah. Because it's hard to change. I mean, that's something that's like we always continue to evolve and work on ourselves. But that's something that we know that's like stems from our fucking childhood. So you need to find somebody that literally just doesn't use those triggers against you. And that's why I was like, he's a sick man. Because he sees that and is like manipulative and uses it against her. And that's fucked up. But anyways, plug yourself and then you go pee.
Well, you can find us at doubleteampodcast.com, has all relevant links, at Cami Niki on Instagram, and also at Double Team Podcast. We have 2 accounts. And then TikTok at Double Team Podcast. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, come back again. We should do solo pods again.
I love it. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Anyways, follow me, Stephanie Megan, or go to brocotherapy.com. All that shit is there. All right. I don't know where that attitude came from, but love ya. Bye. Growth therapy.